So while I was doing that last bit of work, I was sort of thinking about what I'm looking at here. And I don't know if I can get the angle such that you can see it, but this area over here is fairly flat, and it's the part that comes up to the edge of the stairs. That's a fairly flat ceiling. Right here, if you notice, this starts being level with this board that comes down from the staircase, but up here you can see that along the edge it travels upward. And here, if I look back at that wall, there's a piece of sheetrock or something in there that's not exactly flat. It's kind of at an angle. And here it kind of goes, I think it kind of goes upwards. I don't think this is flat across here. So with all that said, I believe that fake ceiling stuff would work in such a way. The way they were describing it, you put a bunch of glue on there and kind of stick it up, but I believe you could put it up in such a way where it would wind up being about as level as you could get. It wouldn't necessarily have to, you know, what I would do is I'd try to make it all even here with this board, where this board ends, where it comes down, and over there. I don't want to add any more. I don't want to lower the roof, because already it's not a bother for me, but when Brandon comes down the stairs, he's really tall and he has to kind of duck his head to get under there, so I don't want to drop the ceiling down any at all. But that stuff might be a good way to kind of even out this part of the ceiling. And in here, you know, we have another huge ceiling. It's a big mess, and I could kind of do the same thing in here. Basically throw some putty up there to stabilize the ceiling so that it won't come down. Go over all these cracks and smudge some up there, kind of in an ugly fashion like I did there, but it may be ugly, but with all that putty on there, it helps to solidify the stuff that's up there. Now this stuff pretty much isn't sheetrock, and I think some of this is. Like that crooked piece, I think somebody put a crooked piece of sheetrock in there at some point to try to make up for whatever was going on with that ceiling. This stuff here pretty much, I'm guessing, is all horsehair plaster. So we aren't really talking about doing all of this now. We're talking about doing that section as a trial piece, but if that worked out pretty good, it would make this section a lot easier to do. Back here in the back room, let's go further and look at my ceilings. We have a lot of ceiling that's already fallen down, and you'll notice it's stuff like these pieces of plywood that are stuck up here. They are literally stuck up there because all the plaster fell down, and there's insulation coming between the laws that was falling on the floor. So at different times, different pieces of plywood have been stuck up there to kind of hold everything in place and keep all that insulation from dripping down here on the floor. And then back here, what I plan to do is I made this ceiling back here out of basically some 2x that I put across, and then I bought this this little 3/8 inch finished plywood and put it up for a ceiling back here. And what I would do is I would continue that all the way across, and I could throw some more insulation on top of that to kind of help insulate this room a little bit more. So back here we wouldn't be doing any of that kind of stuff, but out here we would be, I'm thinking, because that's, and I want you to see, I don't know if you can see, but if you look down that wall above that clock at that ceiling line, you will notice something that looks rather roller coaster-ish. What I mean by that is it is not straight in any fashion, in any way. Of course, that's what you're going to get when you've got a house that's 142. No, wait a minute. I'll take that back. It was built in 1842. So how many years is that? But my point is, yeah, nothing is straight here. So putting up a ceiling that could kind of work kind of makes sense. And another thing is we have this piece of furniture over here that is literally built into the room. That is an old, that used to be the kitchen. That whole thing is made out of wooden pins. There's no nails in it. It's all hand done. And you can't really drop it. You can't really cut it and drop it down up top. Well, I suppose you could, but dropping the ceiling in here would not be great. Anyway, lots to think about. We didn't really start this day off trying to do all the ceilings, but one idea kind of leads to another. So I guess we'll kind of stick with this, focus on this first, see where this leads us, and take it from there. And I'm not going to do any more of this today. I've got enough putty up there to stabilize everything, and I'm going to walk away from it. And then when Honey Baby gets home, we'll talk about that stuff, and we could probably buy a few sheets of it and do this area here, and then we'll go from that.